Why did I do this? That is what you'll be saying if you drafted these four players in fantasy football. Fantasy famous. Dun dun dun. Hello and welcome to everybody who's watching. This is Fantasy Famous. This is a weekly show giving you all the tips and tricks needed to win your league. In this video, we will talk about who you should absolutely not pick in the first round of your fantasy football draft. The first round of your fantasy football draft should look something like this: Jamar Chase, Saquon Barkley, and Bijan Robinson at 3. Now these three are all interchangeable. At 4, 5, and 6, you have Justin Jefferson, Jahmyr Gibbs, and CeeDee Lamb. And at 7, 8, 9, and 10, you have Puka, Malik Nabers, Christian McCaffrey, and Derrick Henry. And at 11 and 12, you have BTJ and Ashton Genty. Now, 4 out of these top 12 picks will absolutely ruin your chances at winning your league. The first player that I know will be a landmine is Saquon Barkley. I know that everybody watching this is gasping, but hear me out. What he did last year was historical. I mean, it was insane. But what happened last season won't happen again this season for one main reason. That reason is how many times he carried the ball. Last season, he carried the ball for a total of 436 times. To put that into perspective, Jahmyr Gibbs only carried the ball around 200 times. It's a miracle that he didn't get injured, but that probably won't be the case in 2025. Saquon Barkley carried the ball 436 times, which is tied for the most this century. The running back who tied Saquon Barkley's number of rushes was DeMarco Murray. I mean, just look at the stats. He also carried the ball 436 times for 2,050 yards and 15 touchdowns in 2014. Now, this is also including the postseason, so it's not just the stats he had in the regular season. He was unstoppable. But then, next season, he signed with the Eagles and proceeded to vex Phillies fans and fantasy owners who drafted him. He appeared in 15 games that season where he absolutely stunk. He had a career-worst 3.6 yards per carry, 702 rushing yards, and only 6 touchdowns. He went from the RB2 in 2014 to the RB15 in 2015. And Murray's 2015 production is only the best-case scenario for Saquon Barkley. Just look at these numbers. Obviously, you have Saquon Barkley and DeMarco Murray for the most carries. And then next, you have Eddie George. He had 431 carries and then 315 carries in the following year. He finished as the RB3 when he carried the ball 431 times, and then the RB21 next year. Then Sean Alexander, 430 carries to 302 carries, RB1 to RB30. Every single one of these examples decrease. And it's not biased numbers. These are just all the people that carried the most balls in a single season. Every single one decreases. The most recent running back to get close to 400 carries in a single season is Derrick Henry in 2020. King Henry rushed for 2,027 rushing yards and 17 touchdowns in 397 carries. The next season, he played just 8 games and finishes the RB18. Also, when this happened to Henry in 2021, he only had 1,407 career NFL touches. Entering this next season, Saquon Barkley has nearly 2,000 NFL touches, not 1,996 to be exact, basically 600 more touches than Henry ever did. Even though I'm only supposed to be talking about the first round, I will give you some amazing late round running backs that are basically free. Will Shipley and A.J. Dillon. Shipley is ranked the 2018th player in fantasy football, while Dillon is ranked 345th. And when, yes, I said when, Saquon Barkley gets injured, these two running backs will split over 400 carries. Do not draft Saquon Barkley. The next player who will be picked in the first round and who is crazy overrated is Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm not saying that he will bust like Saquon Barkley will, but he won't live up to the hype. The number one thing that people forget is that Monty is still there. Not only has Dan Campbell spoke numerous times about how David Montgomery is a huge part of the Lions and comparing him to many Hall of Famers such as Walter Payton and Earl Campbell, but Montgomery also usually takes most of the red zone snaps, so that will make it harder for Gibbs to score. The only thing that people remember about Gibbs was his last 3 weeks when Monty was out. Gibbs was the RB1 in all rankings, averaging 23.5 points in half PPR leagues. From weeks 1 to 14, he only averaged around 17 fantasy points per game in half PPR. If David Montgomery stays healthy this year, Gibbs won't live up to the fantasy hype that he is receiving. My last point is that Ben Johnson, the Lions' former offensive coordinator, left Detroit and John Morton replaced him. While Ben Johnson was run-heavy, John Morton is the exact opposite. He has already expressed his feelings about how the 2025 Lions will pass more, which could be very bad for both running backs. I would much rather have Devon Achane or Josh Jacobs this year. The third player who will be picked in the first round of your fantasy football draft, but who will absolutely stink, is Puka Nacua. I know that last year he broke records and was a league winner, but everything has changed. If you draft Puka with your 6th, 7th, 8th, or 9th pick, you're giving up your first pick for a bust. The biggest red flag is his injuries. Puka Nacua plays physical, which makes him so good, but that's also what makes him so risky. In 2024, he missed 6 straight games with rib and knee injuries. But this isn't new. He has had problems in college too, and in just 2 years of his NFL, his body's already breaking down. Wide receivers can't help you from the bench. Next, let's talk about his target share. A lot of people forgot that Puka's monster production came because Cooper Kupp was very injured most of the season. Even in the games that Kupp did play, he was very, very limited. But now, instead of having Cooper Kupp, the Rams brought in Davante Adams, one of the most solid and reliable wide receivers in the NFL. In the past 5 years, Adams has only missed 4 games. And not only that, Adams is a much better player than Kupp ever was. Target share is going to be a huge issue for Puka Nacua. On every team that Davante Adams has been on, he has averaged around a 25% target share. For Kupp, only barely 19%. Do not draft Puka Nacua in the first round, or in the second. The fourth and final landmine that you should avoid in your fantasy football draft is Brian Thomas Jr. BTJ is averaging around 16.5 points per game, which is only the 12th best average in all of wide receivers. And you're going to spend a first round on a pick who averaged 22nd out of all flex players? There is no way this guy is going to do better in 2025. They added Travis Hunter. They also added Diami Brown. Liam Cohen has made it very clear that they're going to spread the ball so BTJ won't get as many passes thrown his way than he did last year. Also, Thomas did his best work when he was in the slot. Since they drafted Hunter with the 2nd overall pick in the NFL draft, that will probably move BTJ to work primarily outside. That will make it so that Thomas is mainly a deep threat, and all the shorter game will go to Hunter. And since Liam Cohen's offense has historically favored slot receivers, that could be a huge problem for Thomas. Reporters also have noticed that Trevor Lawrence is not moving as fluidly as he did pre-2024. They also added Bijail Tutin, sorry if I missaid that, a rookie running back that they got in the 4th round of the NFL draft. Avoid Brian Thomas Jr. if you can. He shouldn't even be considered in the first 2 rounds of fantasy football. If you pick him, he will ruin your chances at winning your league. Thank you for watching this week's episode of Fantasy Famous. Be sure to check out my next video where I will share with you what players you need to get in your fantasy football draft. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe.